Most firefighters can't provide an income just by firefighting. That when they have their 4 off, they are doing something else to provide income for that. When he leaves, it was difficult. So hard getting into firefighting. The families and the spouses and partners of first responders are a huge part in society of helping them even have first responders.
You never think that today's going to be the last day maybe you see your spouse.
We are alone a lot for holidays, events, birthdays, weddings.
Yeah, 10 days a month is it's a third of the month, third of the year that I'm gone.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Well Made. I have my favorite person in the world. You guys already know who he is.
Tell me more.
Keloni Kamalani, my husband. For those who don't know, Keloni is a firefighter, thus making me a firefighter wife. I wanted to talk about this episode because I get so many questions on my social media platforms of, how is it being a firefighter wife? What does our day look like? How we do it? And so forth. So I want to jump into kind of how you even became a firefighter, because this was not your first career path. You were going down another career path.
No, to be honest, I didn't want to, because I grew up around firemen, because my grandpa was a fireman, my dad was a fireman. And so I'm like, do I want to do that? I want to try something different. I want to be completely different. I want to try my own thing. Mm-hmm. And somehow all roads are led back to firefighting. Here I am.
Yeah. And it's crazy because when I met you, Keloni played football at University of Oregon. And when I met you, you were nothing but the NFL. When you were training like, I'm going to train until the combine comes and I'm going to get ready for the NFL. But you got a career-ending injury and that happened and you were like, okay, what now? And this is where it's led to you as firefighting, but you absolutely love it. And I love it, kind of.
It's been a learning experience.
It's been a learning experience. So starting off, Keloni is a firefighter, and this is kind of what our normal day looks like. First off, getting into the firefighting, it's like such a pat on your back because it's so hard getting into firefighting. Why do so many people want to be firefighters?
Honestly, I think it's two things. They want to help people and it sounds fun, and then they do it for a schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for our schedule, we work 2 days, 48 hours on, and we get 4 days off, 96 hours off. So you're talking, I work 10 days a month. Granted, I'm there day and night.
48 hours, which is above a 40-hour week.
Eat there, sleep there, like all of it there for 48 hours away from you guys. Like, but that being said, it's 10 days a month, so you get the other 20 days of the month to do whatever it is you want to do.
And most of the time of our marriage, you actually had a second job. Most firefighters can't provide an income just by firefighting. That when they have their 4 off, they are doing something else to provide income for that. So in actuality, for a long time, Keloni was working. It was a buddy of his car shop, and he ran the dealership with him. And you were working well over 60 hours a week.
Oh, absolutely.
With the two, which was, I can't believe that I did that.
Yeah,
with
looking back on it, I'm like, I feel so bad because that is a lot of time to be pretty much a single mother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what a normal routine looks for us. Keloni's not gone the same days every single week. It changes every week. And so when he leaves around 6:30 in the morning, and then he's gone for 48 hours and doesn't come home till the third day at 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. And when he's gone, I have kids full time for me. And that was such a difficult thing for me because at the beginning of having kids, my whole job was to raise the children. But I was a flight attendant and I was on leave, maternity leave. And we knew when my leave came up, something had to change because we both could not have our careers.
Sure.
And that's how I got kind of into social media, was sharing my life. And thankfully I can do this full time now. But when he leaves, it was difficult, and it still is difficult because I have this whole entire business to run and I'm running it by myself. We just hired out actually our first employee, which is really exciting. Yeah. But for this whole time, for the last 4 years, how long have you been a firefighter?
Just over 4 years.
4 years. Mm-hmm. It's been me with the business and running our household and kids. And what a lot of people I feel like don't understand is that the families and the spouses and partners of first responders are a huge part in society of helping them even have first responders. Because you guys couldn't do what you wanted to do if it wasn't.
No, like who's supposed to keep the house running? Who's supposed to watch the kids? Like who's supposed to teach them and be with them through all the little moments? Like we miss so much, but somebody's got to do that. And that's the spouse or whoever the partner or whoever that is. You know?
Yes. There was times where Keloni was at work and I would call him and I would tell him, I feel like I'm drowning. And I felt bad because there's nothing you can do. Like you're literally saving somebody.
Trying to
or maybe CPR, trying to save somebody, because he doesn't just do fires. He does medical calls too. So when you call 911 and there's a medical issue, Keloni is going on that. He is an EMT along with that. You guys have to be EMTs. And it's different for each state, but at least for the state of Utah, it's so difficult because I'm crying like I'm drowning here. And you would come home and you would just kick it into overdrive and you would not even tell me, but you wouldn't have slept for 2 days straight. Like you were up running calls all day. And then you would be like, do you feel better? And it's like, yeah, I feel a little better. I feel like I'm not drowning anymore. Like I have a life jacket, but now another storm is coming, knowing that these 4 days are coming off and I'm going back into the 2 days by myself.
It was always a discussion like, oh man, I'm already dreading Thursday because I know you're going back to work. And it's like, I just got off of work, because it's just this, you get your battery charged from 1% to maybe 25% and it was right back because man, having kids like how close we had our kids together.
Yes.
And then just doing that and raising them pretty much on your own, especially during that time. Like I can't imagine how hard that was.
It's still hard, I have to say, but I'm in a better headspace. And hopefully those who are married to either military or first responders, I can give you guys some tips and tricks not tricks, but some things that have helped my mental health and like helped our relationship. Also too, when you're away, what a lot of people don't understand is that there's so much mental toll that happens with the families that are left behind at home. Because when there's like a call or a fire and it's in your area, I have people sending me news articles or calling me up, sending me pictures. I just drove past this. Is this Keloni's fire station or is he on this call? Which is awful to do. I feel like to someone that has their spouse on the field.
I mean, you never think that today's going to be the last day maybe you see your spouse, right? Mm-hmm. But that's just the reality of the profession that I'm in. Like you could very well be like, oh, he is working today and there was a fire. So like, was this the day that something bad happened to you? Like,
and you've seen that. People that's happened to, and like you've heard of stories and like people on the line.
Luckily I haven't had anybody that's passed away, but people have gotten hurt and stuff like that for sure.
Yep. And another thing that's really hard is what people don't understand. You have the whole mental load of the whole house on you because when there's a huge snowstorm, it's like, it's me out there shoveling. Or if there's something that's broken into the house, like broken in the house where I'm calling you and you're not answering, I've got to figure it out. I have to figure it out because it's just me here.
And I don't know what it is, but it's like, I'm sure all the other spouses can relate and all the other firemen or first responders, military, anybody that's away. When does stuff go wrong when I'm at work? It's every time.
Kids are sick when you're at work. Fail. Things go wrong when you're at work. A kid gets hurt, sick, or something goes wrong with the house when you're at work.
Absolutely. And it was like, it would be the worst thing. Like the night right before I'm going out to work, like, oh no, the kids are getting sick and you're going to work tomorrow. And I'm like, I can't do anything. It's like, what? I'm bound to this job,
Yeah. And honestly, I have to say, firefighting does not have great benefits, what people think. Because with most jobs, let's just say you're given allotted time, let's just say 40 hours of sick time a year. When you usually reach your anniversary date, it's renewed. And during that year, when you work, you're accruing more sick time or more vacation time. That's not the same with firefighting.
No, but it's just at least for us, it's just a complete like running or a tally. So every pay period, I get X amount of hours for sick and X amount of hours for vacation.
It's not a lot.
And it is not a lot, especially considering that a full shift is 48 hours. So like that's all sick. Like I'd have to take 48 hours of sick time in order to cover an entire shift. And you don't get a lot every pay period, and it does not renew. So you have to choose your things wisely. Like, okay, do I really need to call off sick because I'm sick or my kids are sick or my wife needs me or whatever it might be, mental health day? Or do I go to work because I don't have a lot of sick time and I'm not going to gain it very quickly?
And when you do take sick time, it's 48 hours you're taking. And that is months. It's like months of working to get that, I feel like.
Let's see. I think I get like 12 hours a month or 6 hours a month. So
it's like not even a shift.
Yeah.
Of
a long time.
Of working. The other thing that I find hard too is that we are alone a lot for holidays, events, birthdays, weddings. And every single time that something comes up, the first thing I do is I check our Google Calendar to see if you're working that. Cause we have his schedule set out for the next like 20 years. Like it's already programmed in when he works, and you're gone for so many events. And I have to apologize because I know it's really hard on me. Like you've been gone for Thanksgiving. You've been gone for Mother's Day, birthdays, so many things, weddings. And I almost feel like I owe you an apology because I'm always thinking like, this sucks. Like I'm going to this by myself with the kids.
It does suck.
It does. But like, it sucks for you too. You're not there too. You're away. Yes,
absolutely. When I'm there, even just a normal shift, not even for special occasions, like I'm like, oh man, I really want to just be home with my family. I want to see my kids. I want to be with my kids. I want to be with you, like,
yeah.
Especially if it's a weekend, if the weather's nice, like all that stuff that, a lot of other people get to do because they work a 9-to-5 job. Like it's just not that way.
For those who don't really know, what does your life look like at the station?
So
you play ping pong, you work out,
maybe,
and watch movies.
Nope, we were super busy the entire time. Like not a second wasn't wasted helping somebody.
Pickleball.
I definitely didn't take a nap. I definitely didn't play video games or watch a movie or.
No, all jokes aside, though, that you do that few often at the station. But it's not that all the time.
No, it's, all jokes aside, our department has, 20 something stations, and there's a variance, right? Like you could be at a really slow stations where you literally don't run calls for 48 hours, or you could run 25 to 30 calls in 48 hours, which is a ton. Every time I get into work, I get a pass out from my partner. He tells me what happened, if anything, any pertinent information that I need to know. And then from there, I make sure I check off all my equipment to make sure that I'm ready to go when you call me for an emergency. Because the last thing I want to have happen is I'm missing something that's going to be life-saving, or I'm like scrambling to find out, where it is because I need it at that moment. So making sure everything works, I have everything I need. And then from there, we could train that day, with medical training. We could do fire training. And then we also, in between all of this, we're running calls. We got to go shop the first day because we cook 4 meals and we all split that cost. Like the state doesn't pay for that. We all pitch in our own money, to go and shop while we're on shift, and somebody will,
you have to work within that budget.
Yeah, work within that budget, which is not easy, especially with the way cost of living is now. Yeah, we'll shop for food, but we'll try and get a workout in to just stay fit for the job. And we're still running calls in between that. And then, you go to sleep. You could run calls all night, or you could sleep through the night, hopefully. But even when you sleep through the night, it's not really like sleep at home, because at least for me, I'm on edge. Like,
and the beds aren't the greatest.
Yeah, they're not terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up sleeping on the ground.
I was about to say, could, if you have the ground, you're good.
So
if you have a sheet of paper for a blanket, you're fine.
Yep. And then on certain days, we have like people stop by the station. We have tours that come by. We go to public events. We do stuff like that. And you do that and you run calls all through this whole thing. And you do that for 2 days.
Yeah, which is hard, I feel like, for you guys, because you have to be in the headspace of saving people, and you see a lot of people go through a lot of traumatic things, which I do love that about the department, that they have therapy access they have therapy for the firefighters and their family, which we have utilized for certain calls and for each other too, which I think is so important.
Yeah, it used to be, I feel like just in general, society is changing, but especially in the fire service, like it's no longer about being the tough guy, because that's led down to, unfortunate events within the department. It's even happened for us recently. Like, the last thing you want to do is deal with something on your own that's bugging you and it's eating you alive, because, just like your body needs therapy after surgery, it needs therapy after traumatic events.
Yeah. I agree. But I was saying that was like, that's hard for us too, is because when you guys are running so many calls, there's so many things that happen back at home. Home doesn't stop and it doesn't pause and it keeps going. And so I want to call you and tell you about something that's happened or something bad that happened or good or whatever. And I call you and it's like, I don't get a phone call for another 8 more hours. Sometimes through the whole night, I don't get a phone call. And I know, okay, well, he's been running calls all night because he didn't call me to say goodnight to the kids or to us because you're trying to transport someone to the hospital.
That is like one of the hard things. Like, how many times have I talked to, just barely got on the phone with you to like chat with you about your day, how the kids were, and it's like, oh, the tones went off, I gotta go, sorry. And it's like, hang up on you, don't talk to you till the next day. You know? And the same thing for the kids. Like, how many times have I not been able to tell them good night and I love you, because we're running calls. It's
so hard. And it's also too, it's like when I'm trying to explain to the kids, Daddy's at the fire station, and they now, I feel like, are at an age where they understand where we can't call because you're running calls. And a call is, for those who don't understand, is when you call 911, that's a call going into the fire department.
Yeah, whether that's medical or fire.
Yeah, medical or fire. And it takes a toll on us at home because we're at home and I'm just exhausted by solo parenting, especially day 2, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make food. Like, I don't want to make dinner. And okay, so here's one of my tips I will have to say. Keloni's so good at prepping food for us before he leaves. I cook, but he'll get like a big old thing of brisket and he'll smoke it for a couple days and throw that in the freezer. So if I'm in that phase of like, I don't want to cook, I'm just mentally and physically and emotionally exhausted from solo parenting, that's been a lifesaver for me, is to pull out the meat that you've cooked, and it helps so much. I don't know what it is, but when you're at the station, it's like, that's the last thing I want to do is cook.
Well, yeah, because you've taken care of 2 little humans for the entire day by yourself. Meltdowns. Yeah. Whatever the day would have brought. And then you're like, oh, I got to cook too. Yeah. I can't even imagine.
Another thing that has really helped us, I feel like, is splitting the responsibilities when you're home. That when you're home, you take a lot of the responsibilities, where Luna will have school and you'll take her to school, and then you will have time with Bubba Brooks, our son, for a few hours, and then you'll pick her up from school and come. And that leaves me at the house by myself to work and do that. I always say that you have to wear multiple hats, because when you're a firefighter, you can't wear the firefighter hat 24/7 and you're going to get exhausted. You have to disconnect and be Dad or be Keloni when you're at home, and not be thinking about calls or the call you went on and like doing that. And that's the same for me as a mom. I can't be mom 24/7. I have to wear other hats. I have to go work out, have to do my hobbies. I need to do my businesses. And I feel like that was has been a saving grace for the last few months, is wearing multiple hats.
Absolutely. I think I guess you could call it a benefit, like, I feel like when I'm able to come back home and I just been gone for 2 days, which doesn't seem like crazy amount of time, but yeah, 10 days a month is it's a third of the month, third of the year that I'm gone.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I'm come home, I'm able to recharge my battery by like playing with my children, you know, like being able to hang out with them. And then that at the same time, your battery is being recharged as well, giving that mental and physical break from the kids, and being able to do what you want to do, your business, with your physical health or whatever you want to do, like.
I think one of the things too that we've done a really good job, if there's anybody listening that has a spouse that's in a first responder or in the military, that when you come home and you haven't slept, you're really good at taking some energy and like just powering through it. And then if you do take a nap, it's a nap where it's the kids' quiet time, that you don't go home and go straight to nap, where I feel even more exhausted. You do a really good job of that. But I will have to say, not everyone's like that, where they can run off little to no sleep and not be irritable and not be angry or whatever it is. But because you do that and you make such a big effort to come home and be present, for me, I try to get up early in the mornings with the kids and allow you to sleep in. And when I say sleep in, it's like 8 o'clock because your body doesn't let you sleep in past that.
I feel guilty doing it.
Yeah. But I try to tell you not to. Like,
I know.
It's a trade-off. That's the trade-off is like you come home and you really try to be present, even if though you're not sleeping, and you're so good about not complaining where you come home. And if I see an energy drink in your hand, I'm like, oh no, you haven't been sleeping the last 2 nights. And you're like, yeah. But if you come home with no energy drink in your hand, like you're golden. You're like good. You got some rest. You got a good solid 4 hours.
Well, I feel bad because it's put on the spouse a lot. Like when I don't sleep, I know that I'm not the happiest that I can be because I mean, who is when they don't sleep, right? Yeah. You see it in your own children. When they don't sleep, you're cranky. And I'm sorry if I'm that way, you know, and I try not to be, but
you're near perfect, honestly, though. What are some tips that you would have to say if somebody is listening and they are going into the fire department or police or first responders or anything from your position? What are some tips to help with that work-life balance and help your spouse back at home to make this transition? Or even if they are in it right now and they're having a difficult time, like they're having that difficult time of being away from each other and making that. And
it's been a learning curve. You can't expect your old life before you had this job to be your new life because you're going to miss a lot of things. You're going to be expected to work on Christmas, like, unfortunately, you know, but I would say have patience for each other, because they may have gone on calls that that's affecting them and you might not know it. They might not feel open to discussing quite yet. So make sure you have patience with each other. I think, at least for me, it's important to give you a mental break from the kids. Like, I don't feel like firefighting's my life. I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's not your identity.
It's not my identity. Like, I love what I do, but I don't identify, it's not my life. Like, my life is for my family. It's for you and the kids. And so I think make sure you have a balance. Like, don't just make life all about work. And I think that's in any occupation that you do. For me, balance, have patience with each other. Make sure that you still get to spend quality time with each other because 4 days goes by really quickly.
Yeah.
So plan things out with each other. Try and get connected again and I feel like sometimes it's easy because you're gone. So it makes you miss the person more, you know?
A big thing too has helped us with holidays is celebrating the holiday on a different day and not putting so much emphasis on the day that you are missing. So for example, Keloni missed Easter this year. And so we didn't celebrate. We didn't even tell the kids it was Easter Day. We celebrated Easter a completely different day. And I feel like that helps a lot to still celebrate the holiday, but just celebrating on another day. So you're not missing out and dad's not gone, but we're still involving that holiday and enjoying it. I also think too, which is a big thing in our marriage is thinking about the other person before yourself. And so there's so many times where I used to call you and I would just be crying and just be like, I can't do this. Now I realize there is nothing you can do when you're at work unless it's an emergency and you have to come home, of not trying to put that mental toll on you anymore and complaining to you so much. I'm not perfect at it, but of every little detail and having these breakdowns. And so that's what the therapy session is for, which is really nice, is going to therapy and talking that out. And I think the last thing that has really helped us is creating boundaries with what type of calls that you tell me about. And so at the beginning, there's sometimes where you would talk about a call that you went on, a little kid or something like that. And that was a big mental toll on me. I could not sleep because of that. And so we came together as a team. We're like, okay, I'm not going to speak about certain calls but what I'm going to do is go to therapy for it instead and talk about it.
I think, it's not your job to fix my trauma.
Yeah.
Right. There's professionals that do that. And I think it's important that you don't offload that, especially if your spouse doesn't want it. That's not a stab in your back that they don't have your back. They don't want to help you out. That's not their job to fix.
Yeah.
You know, don't be offended if they say, hey, what's going on? You're not acting yourself. Is there something that you need to talk to the therapist about? Don't get offended about it. Just take that with an open mind, because those people know you the best, and they're like, you're not yourself. And so maybe, therapy is something that needs to happen.
Yeah. Another big thing too is finding a core group of people to help you. I know times where you're gone and it is these events or holidays or special things coming up, or I'm going to Sunday dinner by myself. It's as simple as like somebody checking in on me or helping me to the car with my stuff, or like anything like that, like checking in on your first responder families and seeing if they need any help, helping them out with yard work or anything like that. That is a way. Also too, before we leave, I want to say, if you feel inspired at all to help any first responder families, there is a foundation that I love. It's called Folds of Honor. And what they do is for any military, disabled military, fallen first responders, firefighters, police officers, they will provide a scholarship for the children.
That's really cool.
It's really cool. So we will link them in the show notes so you can go help donate. But yeah, thanks for, being a hero, being my hero. And
I'll be your hero anytime.
and we'll see you again the next show.